Okay, so let's start out by share with me a little bit about like where are you at on your Instant Pot journey? Are you like brand new, or do you have one and you're scared to use it? Do you not even have one? Do I need to sell you on owning an Instant Pot? Where are you at with Instant Pots?
I use it for chicken when I forget to do anything with it, and that's all.
Okay. Okay, so you have one, you use it for chicken, like frozen chicken, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Where are we at? Are we scared to use one? Just so I can kind of like tailor what we're going to go over everything today. My goal for you after this call is you're going to be like, if you don't have one, you're going to go buy one right away because you want one. And if you do have one, you're going to feel super confident and be able to use it in all of the different forms that you can use it. Because this tool is the reason we're doing a workshop on this tool is because I think it is one of the best kitchen appliances to use. If you are a busy mom, if you are single, if you are just you and your partner, this will make your life so much easier. And so I am a firm believer in the Instant Pot, and I want you to be able to have that convenience and ease as well. Okay, so Nikki says, I have one, but I don't use it very often. Okay. And the reason people don't use it very often is, one, for me, I was kind of like Kelsey, where I didn't use it. I used it for chicken. That was it. And then I realized all that it could do, and it kind of unlocked this whole world. So I'm going to share with you two resources for jumping on today. And then if you're watching the replay, we'll put the resources linked below. But the first one, we created this cheat sheet for you. And this is like look at how many things are on here. This is what you can use the Instant Pot for. So there's types of chicken, rice and grains, seafood, pork, vegetables, beef, other types of meat, and beans and legumes. And I actually printed this off, and I'm gonna laminate it because I want to be able to have this as well. Instead of having to like Google all the time, you can just pull this out and use it. So I'm going to drop this resource in the chat for you. It's just hold on a second, let me get it. It's just a link. There you go. There you go. So you can go snag this resource right away, save it. Again, it'll be in the replay down below when we put it in the portal. But you can look at it. So there's 3 columns. It's the type of food, right? What item we're using. And then the time, how long you are cooking that item for, and then whether you're doing a natural or a quick release. So I'll go over what that is. Sometimes there is how many pounds per minute. So like if you're going to cook duck, or chicken, if you're cooking like a whole chicken, you're going to do 8 minutes per pound is what it says up here. And then on things like the rice and grains, it'll have a ratio of how much water to cup of items. So like for steel cut oats, you're going to do 1 cup of steel cut oats to 3 cups of water. So that's just kind of explaining this to you. If you have questions on this sheet, just let us know. We can answer. It's pretty easy. Once I go through everything today, you'll be able to look at this and hopefully understand it and be able to decipher what it is. But again, awesome resource. So that way you don't really have to look up all the time. The Instant Pot is a machine or an appliance that works by pressure. So in order to have pressure in the Instant Pot is you have to have water. That's what creates the steam, what creates the pressure. And on your lid, the reason we're creating pressure is we're setting this valve to locked. So it's holding everything inside this appliance. Now, one of the biggest fears I would say people have is that they're worried it's going to explode. This thing will not explode. Like, we would hear a lot more about it if Instant Pots were exploding. It's really hard to mess this up. All you have to do is turn this. There should be there's like a little thing on here that says sealed and venting. Venting means it's open, there's no pressure, and sealed means it's building pressure, it's cooking, and it's building that steam. And how it's cooking your item is through pressurized cooking. And that's why this takes so much less time than cooking it in the oven or cooking something on the stove is because it's working pressure. So it's cooking it more thoroughly from the inside out. Now, that's one of the things I also love about the Instant Pot is because it helps cook your meats, like your roast, your chicken. It helps cook them more evenly because of the pressurized style of cooking. Everything cooks even. So when I do a roast, I love doing it in the Instant Pot because it makes it tender, and it's kind of like a no-brainer where you're not worried about, am I cooking it too long? Am I not? It's as long as you follow the recipe and you follow this cheat sheet, you'll be able to cook the food to its necessary cook point. So the way that it works, just some basics behind it. Obviously, you have a pan that goes inside. This is removable. So this part, the down there is the heating element. So I'm not ever cleaning this element, but you can just show you, you can unplug it. So there's no electricity. So it is water safe, but we just want to make sure this doesn't get much water in there because of the heating element. And then I just plug it back in when I want to use it and get the power on. Now the top, the lid, I've had my Instant Pot for like 5 years. So they're really durable. They last a long time. The lid you can clean because there's no electricity to it. You can take off the valve and clean in there. And then inside, everyone is a little bit different. They have so many different versions, different brands. But there is always going to be some type of seal in here. And I mean, this is clear when you first get it, but I've had mine for so long, it's kind of discolored. But you can clean in here around the rim. You can clean all in here after you use it. And of course, you can clean the pan. So I like to, sometimes I'll even take this out and throw it in the dishwasher to sterilize it and get it nice and clean. So especially when you're cooking things that have a lot of flavor or a lot of spice, this holds scent because it's silicone. So I'll throw it in the dishwasher to clean it so it doesn't stink in my cabinets. Okay, so that goes in there. And then when we're cooking with it, you just put it on and you have to turn it to lock it in place. That locks the top, and then you turn it to sealed when you're ready to start cooking. I'm actually going to cook something with you today, just so you can kind of see it in action. I'm gonna do something that's super simple. And this is one, like when I found out I could do this with the Instant Pot, it like changed my life and it made everything so much easier. Hard-boiled eggs. So there's two tools that you'll get with the Instant Pot. You'll get your trivet and you'll get your mesh strainer. These two different things are used for different types of food. And again, on the cheat sheet, it does show you up here, there's a little sign that says use steamer basket or trivet. So you'll know what items need to be used for that. So for hard-boiled eggs, you don't, and the reason you use this, let me show you. On the bottom of it, it has like these little prongs. So it makes it so that things don't sit on the actual base of the Instant Pot. There are certain things that we don't want to be direct on the heat. Chicken, meat, that kind of stuff doesn't really matter. But for hard-boiled eggs, you're going to want that space for the eggs to not be sitting right on the heating element. For the strainer, things that go in here would be vegetables. If you're cooking like chicken broth from a rotisserie chicken, I like to put my celery, carrots, onions, chicken in here. So that way when I'm done cooking, I can just pull out all of that gunk and then the broth stays in here. So this is just to help separate like vegetables. When you're cooking vegetables, you put it in here and then put it in the water. So that way you can just pull it out and it strains it right away. So this is a really good tool as well. I'm not going to use that for the hard-boiled eggs. I'm just going to use this tool. So with the hard-boiled eggs, you just place them on. You can do as many as like 12 to 13 in here. And then of course we always have to have water. You never ever should be cooking anything in here without some type of liquid. It will not pressurize correctly and it'll burn. And luckily your Instant Pot will tell you if something's burning. That is a function on the screen. But it's usually 1 cup is usually like the standard, unless you're cooking like beans or oats or whatever. So I just pour that 1 cup in here and then I'm going to seal it. So there's different functions. I'm going to move you a little bit closer so you can see. I don't know, you guys can't see super well, but there's buttons on here. Now, every Instant Pot is different, and every Instant Pot is going to have different buttons, but there's just a couple buttons that every Instant Pot has, and you should know. There's like, there's things on here like beans, chili, meat, stew, soup, eggs, porridge, multigrain. I wouldn't worry about those at all. Most of the recipes that you're going to use for the Instant Pot will just use 2 or 3 different buttons. And those buttons are the pressure cook button, and then the pressure, and then the time buttons. So pressure cook, and then you're adjusting time. Now I do use the saute button, and I'll show you what that is later. But for this, all intents and purposes, you're basically just going to be using the pressure cook. So for this, I'm pressure cooking, and then it pops up your time, and I'm going to put this, so eggs you do for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that is your regular pressure cook. Then so what happens is it's going to pressurize. You hear that beeping? Okay, so now it's on, and now it's going to start to cook. But that time isn't going to start the clock until this is fully pressurized. So right now it's cooking, it's building up that steam with that water. And then once it's fully pressurized, this will turn on the time. It'll have 5 minutes, and then it counts down until it's to 0. So that's what the timing is. Then once it hits 0, it's going to beep, and I'll hear it beep. So then I know it's done. But at that point, there's 2 different things you can do. You can quick release it, and you can just open it up and let let the pressure just release right away. All the steam will come out, and you'll hear that all the steam and see it come out. So that's what it's called, quick release, when there's a cue on the side right there. Now, natural release is the opposite of that. Natural release, once this hits 0, it's going to start counting up. And you'll see there's a little icon on here that has like a temperature gauge. That means it's natural releasing. And as it counts up, there's certain recipes where you're just going to let it natural release 100% until this is completely unsealed. I forgot to show you, there's a little button here, and this button pops up when the steam is pressurized, and then it will pop down when it's unpressurized. And I'll show you that once these cook all the way. So I've got to make sure this is good. So that's the difference between natural release and a quick release. I would say most recipes call for a quick release. Once it's done, you unpressurize it and you can take it out. But these eggs do call for 5 minutes of natural release. So we know we're going to cook it down all the way pressure cooked for 5 minutes, and then we're going to natural release for 5 minutes. Does that make sense? If you guys have questions, you can drop them in the chat, just so I make sure I'm staying on top of any questions that you have. Okay, another function that your Instant Pot can do is it also is used as like a hot plate. You can do a saute function on it. There are certain things on here where you're going to want to first brown or sear. It's that little, like, I don't even know what that logo is, but when you look at this, you'll see it. So for pork and beef, and there's some other meat that you're going to want to brown or sear it before you pressure cook it. And basically it's like when you cook a steak or whatever and you brown it on both sides before you cook it, that helps lock in the juices. So whenever I do like a certain type of roast, you sear it on both sides, and that's what the saute function is for. So before I even put the lid on, I'm just sauteing in the pan. That makes it so that you're only using one pan in order to cook dinner. You don't have to use a bunch of different pans. And then again, this is like your go-to sheet for everything, but it will tell you how long you want to pressurize cook in here based off of the type of meat, based on how much. It really mainly goes for your pounds, how much weight you have in meat, and that's going to depend on how long you cook it. Now, things like beef stew, which I love in the Instant Pot. Beef stew takes a long time to cook. I mean, on the stove, it takes hours. In the Instant Pot, it takes like 40 minutes. So it's significantly cutting down, but you're still going to have to cook it for a long time. One of my other favorite things to cook in the Instant Pot is frozen chicken. I think we talked about this before. So if you are someone who like forgets to defrost your meat, one of the biggest hacks is you can cook frozen chicken in the Instant Pot. Frozen. You don't even have to defrost it. You just throw your meat in there. I put a cup of water in because again, you want to have some water. I like to drizzle some seasonings on it. And for frozen chicken, I usually do 20 to 25 minutes and it'll cook it. You can shred it right away and use it. So I love using the Instant Pot for that. I have some of my favorite Instant Pot recipes that can kind of get you started. And I am going to share that with you in the chat as well. This is just another resource for you to have. And I'll share my screen and show you. Here's the recipe cards. So the Instant Pot mac and cheese. This is one that my kids love. This is so easy. It's going to tell you how long it takes to cook. So prepping is about 5 minutes and then it cooks for 10 minutes. Instant Pot burrito bowls. This is using that chicken again. Most of the time when I make this food with this dinner, I just do it straight from frozen chicken. And then I usually add some time in to make sure it cooks long enough. But if you're doing thawed chicken, it takes about 8 minutes to cook that chicken. Okay, Instant Pot lasagna soup. This is like anybody who makes this soup always comes back and tells me how much they love it. So this is also another really easy one to prep and cook. And then Instant Pot chicken broccoli casserole. So if you like chicken broccoli casserole and you're usually cooking it in the oven, you can cook it in the Instant Pot and it's super easy. So this is just for you guys. Oh, this is another favorite one. My kids, we eat this at least twice a month. This is one of my essential meals where I always have the ingredients for this meal in my house. Because it has, look, it's so super simple, just meatballs, noodles, and spaghetti sauce pretty much. So I just always make sure. And this is one of those meals that like, I know when I make this, my kids, everyone's going to love it. Everyone's going to eat their dinner. So we do love that. Anybody on here, has anybody cooked with an Instant Pot and used, like, have any favorite recipes that they use? You can drop it in the chat. So now I'm going to show you this little thing right here. Do you see that? I can push it and you can hear the pressure that's releasing. It's now pressurized, which means the countdown is probably going to start here in just a second. So it's completely pressurized and it's in the sealed position. If I push this over, it's going to start venting, which I don't want it to do because then it'll take longer to pressurize. Once this timer runs down after 5 minutes, again, we're going to let it natural release for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to put the eggs in ice water. So the rule for hard-boiled eggs, and I was looking on here, we didn't put the egg recipe on here, but it's pretty easy. It's 5-5-5. 5 minutes pressure, 5 minutes natural release, 5 minutes ice bath, and it'll be the best hard-boiled eggs. They're perfectly cooked, and they peel. The thing we love about it is they peel super easily. I use it regularly for hard-boiled eggs and rice, but want to do more with it. Okay, Jen, use those recipes that I gave you. Those are a really good place to start. And it really just takes some time to get confident with it. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't trust it. How do I don't know if what's in here is getting cooked because I can't see it. Just trust the process. If it isn't cooked, if you open it and like the meat is still not fully cooked or your pasta is not fully cooked, it's really, really easy to repressurize it and cook it for a couple more minutes. Very rarely do I find that it's not fully cooked or I have to do more. It doesn't happen as often because it's such a perfect science with the pressurized cooking. So you guys hear it beeped really quietly, but it beeped and now it's out on the 5 minutes and it's going to start counting down. So it's fully cooking right now. It does get warm on the outside. Like it's not like super hot, but this gets warm. The lid up here, when you're cooking for a long time, this will burn you. So make sure kids aren't touching it and messing around with the top because I don't want anybody to get burned. Yeah. Those recipes are awesome, but there's tons, you guys. And we are in the recipe vault. We're always trying to add more recipes. So we'll get those recipes into the recipe vault, and then we'll continue to add more. And I'd love to hear if you try any, what other ones. My favorite that aren't on there, I do love beef stew, and I love the Mississippi pot roast. So if you use crock pots for a lot of your cooking, you can use this as a crock pot too. And that's a setting on the side for, it's a slow cook. It's the same thing. So you can use it. You could technically, I still have my crock pot, but you could get rid of your crock pot if you wanted to. There's different sizes of the Instant Pot. There's a 4 ounce, there's a 6 ounce, and an 8 ounce. This is the 6 ounce. I would say that a 4 ounce is probably only good if there's 2 of you. If you have more than 2 people, I would for sure invest in the 6 ounce. The 8 ounce is really big, and I actually don't think it's super necessary, right? You can fit a lot in here. And I didn't show you before I close this, but there is a fill line. It's about 2/3 of the way up. You don't ever, and actually I was talking to somebody inside the Shop Society a couple weeks ago who filled it above the fill line. And when you do that, the food is going to start coming out the venting, and it makes a huge mess. So just make sure you don't ever put liquid or items above that fill line so you don't make a mess. Some of the other buttons that are on here, again, you don't have to use any of these buttons. I probably have used the other buttons on here like a handful of times, but I've used the yogurt button. And I have that yogurt recipe. I think I posted on Instagram a couple months ago. But if you're making, like, I like to make Greek yogurt in my Instant Pot, the yogurt is basically just a lower temperature. It doesn't ever pressure cook. It just keeps it at a low temperature for a long time. You can delay start on all of the pressure cookies. So if you're going out, you have a sporting event or whatever, and you don't want this to turn on for a couple hours so that it will be warm when you get home, you can delay start it. And the way you do that is you just click delay start, and it'll say the time, and then you click the pressure cook, and you can adjust how long you want it to cook once the delay start has started. And then once the timer runs down and the natural release has finished, it will keep it warm in here. So you could do that if you also cook dinner and you want it to last a little bit longer, or keep a soup warm. You're serving soup, you can push the keep warm button, and that'll just keep it nice and warm for as long as you want. I have never used the soup, the meat and stew, the bean and chili, the cake. I don't even know what the cake is for. The rice, so Jen said this before. I use my pressure cooker for rice more than anything else. The rice ratio is a 1-to-1 rice to water. Now I will say that my rice turns out better if I do it to like 1 cup to 1 1/4 cups of water. I put a little bit more water in than I do rice. Feel like it cooks it a little bit better. And I know it says 1-to-1 on your cheat sheet, but because you're watching this, I'm just going to let you in on a little hint. Do a little bit more water. And then with rice, I sometimes will play around with it and do like coconut water instead of regular water, and then you can make coconut rice. So that's a fun way to do it. And with the rice, I don't ever use the rice setting. I just do the pressure cook. It's 8 minutes for rice. Rice and pasta tend to be 5 to 8 minutes for all of those different, any type of pasta that you have. But for rice, it's super easy. I throw the water in, I throw the rice. Anytime I'm like cooking a dinner that I know I'm going to need rice, I pull this out and I use it right before we're ready to serve. It's 8 minutes. You see, so now it's done with the 5 minutes, and now it's going to start to count up, and I'll show you what it looks like when it starts counting up. I throw it in, then you don't have to think about it. Like when I put rice on the stove, I'm always worried, does it have enough water? Is it cooking long enough? Is it going to be crunchy? It's a no-brainer. I just know it's going to be good. Throw the rice in. I use this for rice more than anything else. Okay, so now you see how it's at 0, and this little thing is telling me that it's natural releasing right now, because I haven't touched it. So I'm going to let this count back up to 5. And that's something Brad is always like, how do you know if it's counting down or counting up? It's because of that icon. There's like a fire in a pot shows that it's in its pressure cook stage. Okay, that was a lot. I feel like I just threw a lot of this at you. There is going to be a replay. So if you joined late or you had to step away for a second, you can jump back in. Hopefully those resources that we shared with you will get you started. And then you will feel like you can do this. This is my favorite appliance. I fought getting one for a long time, and then my brother ended up getting it for me for Christmas. And now it's like the best gift I've ever received. I love it so much. So hopefully when we give out meal plans that have the Instant Pot on there, you'll feel confident. So what's going to happen is this going to count back up. Just so you know, this is going to count back up to 5. Once it hit 5s, I'm going to vent it and then put the eggs in the ice water, and then I'll be good to go. I'll have hard-boiled eggs. My kids love hard-boiled eggs for snacks. Okay, any other questions, you guys, before I sign off? Does everybody feel like they are confident and that they feel like they can do this? I want everyone to feel like this is something that they're going to try out and get messy with. Awesome, Nikki. So happy. Okay, sounds good. I'll get there. You will. You will. If you have questions, of course, reach out and let us know. I want to see if you cook any of the recipes, or if you try your Instant Pot for the first time, post it in the Facebook group. I want to cheer you on as you start this Instant Pot journey. So fun. Okay, you guys, I'm going to sign off now. Have a wonderful Thursday, and we will see you later. Bye.